to
So
you,
good, man. It's an honor to be here. I'm a longtime fan, and I feel like I'm inside of the
You're here,
Matrix
man.
right
You're
now.
here, man.
We made it in the simulation.
We made it, man. You are a personal finance expert and also a Dave Ramsey personality. And the show's #1 in the world right now, so congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's listening who made it happen. I have very little to do with it.
It's amazing, man. You got this new book, which I'm excited about. I've been diving in. I'm really excited to dive into it with the audience. Breaking Free from Broke, the ultimate guide to more money and less stress. Now, here's a question for you to get started. This is what I read about you. You went from a negative net worth to millionaire status in under a decade. And I'm curious, to start this off, what would be the top 5 habits of millionaires that you studied and also you've applied in order to get that status?
Ooh, that's a great question. So we did the largest study of millionaires ever done in North America, and I think there's a lot of overlap in the habits that we talk about with the Ramsey baby steps and what we found with millionaires. So it was encouraging because it just gave us some great confidence in the Ramsey plan to go like, this works. Every time you work it, it works, whether you make $40,000 or $400,000. And so one of those habits is living on less than you make. If you can't do that, this is not for you. Like
Right.
if you make $40,000 and you spend $60,000 a year, that's a problem. The other one we found is delayed gratification.
For that first one, why do you think people feel the need to spend more than they actually make?
I think at the root of it, it's discontentment. We're not content with what we have. It's never enough. And thanks to debt, you're able to do that. Like before debt existed, you couldn't spend more than you made. It was physically impossible.
Right.
And all of a sudden with the advent of debt, and I talk about the history of each piece of the puzzle here, like where did credit cards come from? Where did auto loans originate? What about student loans? How did this all happen? And most of it was good intentions that turned into huge profits for companies and corporations going like, we can screw a lot of people over and make a lot of money from interest if we convince them they need that newer car. And look at colleges. What do? They raise prices because you can get as much student loans as you want. Sally Mae's happy to give you the monopoly money, so colleges go, let's double the price. People will pay for it.
Yeah.
And so because of that, people just have been spending more than they made for a long time now and putting it on the tab and going, I'll worry about that later.
Okay. What's the second habit?
The second habit is practicing delayed gratification. That's a discipline that we have lost in an instant gratification culture.
Right.
We have instant access 24/7 all the time in the palm of our hand, 2-hour shipping. And that has caused our brains to just get fried where we're like, I can't wait a week. I can't wait 10 years to build wealth.
I need this now.
I need it now. And we found millionaires are okay with the long term. They're playing the long game. And that's a very different mentality to have.
They don't need it right now. They can say, I'm going to put 10% or 5% or a certain amount of dollar amount every month away automatically that I don't need to buy something with this. It's going to go to my future self.
Yeah, or I'm going to pay cash for that car. That means putting $1,000 away for 24 months to save up for a $24,000 car.
You know what's interesting? When I moved my dad always had used cars until he started to make some real money. Then he bought a new car, right? But it wasn't for many, many years. He had that car until he rode it to the last, I guess, mile. And when I moved to LA, I had $1 million in my account already. By the time I moved to LA, I don't know, 12 years ago, I had built this marketing company up before the podcast. I wasn't like mega millionaire, but I had $1 million in the account of net worth, right? And I came here and everyone had these flashy cars. And I was like, I just don't feel the need to try to live up to some standard in Los Angeles. And I got this car for $4,000 that I drove for the first 5 years that I lived here. And the only reason I got a new car was really for like a tax break and to write off on taxes. But this was a 1997 year car.
Wow.
And I drove it around for 5 years happy. It didn't have Bluetooth. It didn't have it had a CD player. And I'm like,
that's all you need?
That's all I needed. And the radio didn't work. But it was like, I don't need some fancy car to feel like.
Well, you weren't trying to flex.
I wasn't trying to.
You were focused on what was ahead of you instead of who the people around you.
Exactly. And it was good enough. It got me around. Eventually I was like, okay, it's time to upgrade, but not because I felt like I needed to impress, but because I wanted it. And
it wasn't a flex.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's the third habit right
really?
There is we found millionaires, they drive 4-year-old cars on average, and they're all used.
Really?
You would think millionaires, well, they can afford the new car, they can do it. but they don't, because they understand that cars are a depreciating asset. Every time you get in that car, it's just going down in value.
Yeah.
And when you compound that with a car payment, you're paying interest on something going down in value. It's about the dumbest thing you can do. And I think it's one of the biggest wealth killers today. So that's definitely the third habit.
Okay. What was getting a used car, or what would it be?
Driving used cars. And that's part of delayed gratification. It all stems from living on less than you make and delayed gratification.
Okay. And what's the fourth one?
The most interesting one to me was that 97% of millionaires in the study believe they control their financial destiny. That was I was shocked they even put that question in the study, but it was such an empowering one because it's less about money and it's more about belief. And what the limiting beliefs we have about like, well, I didn't grow up with money. Well, my parents made money mistake. No, you don't understand. I got baggage, man. I made too many mistakes with zeros on the end. And too many people live their life with that Eeyore mentality. But 97% said, I believe I have a sense of control and autonomy and agency over what happens with my money.
This was a question from our YouTube community. We did a poll, and this was the number one thing they wanted me to ask you. What's the one piece of advice you would give someone feeling completely overwhelmed by their financial situation and seeking a way out of that?
I'm going to go with, in the conclusion of my book, I end with a very non-financial answer, and I think it's the right answer for someone like this. And it's there's this gap between cynicism and hope. And I think people have lost hope in America today when it comes to finances. They've resigned themselves to whether I got myself in this mess or it's someone else's fault or whatever's happening to me or the inflation. I believe both are a choice. Like hope is a choice. And for me, it was the hardest choice because I was the guy who was cynical. When I graduated college, I was 23, 40 grand in consumer debt, and I was angry at the world. I was like, I felt lied to because I was like, I followed this path. I got good grades. I got the degree. Where's my wonderful life? Instead, I'm out here trying to get cash back and get enough Sky Miles to go home for Christmas, wondering how I'm going to achieve my financial goals. And so that to me, I think that's the feeling a lot of people have is this pit of the stomach, lump in the throat, hopelessness, and cynicism becomes the easier choice. It's easier to complain and just go like, someone's got to fix my life.
And blame people, systems, or whatever,
So I think it starts with, while yes, we got to get on a budget, we got to make sacrifices, we got to get rid of this debt using the debt snowball, get the emergency fund. Those are the real tactical steps. But I think it starts with an emotional place where we go, all right, we cried it out, and then we wake up and we're like, we got to go to work. And so the question is, the gap between financial stress and financial peace is littered with traps and myths and distractions and noise and whole life insurance bros trying to sell you on some tax-free wealth strategy. And so what you have to do if that's you is go like, I'm cutting out all the noise and inputs. I'm going to follow a proven plan, do one thing at a time with focus, intensity, and go all in. And if you get out of debt and follow the Ramsey plan and you hate it, you can always go back into debt. The companies will always be ready to hand you more monopoly money to play with. But I've rarely seen that happen. When people get out of debt, the sacrifice they make to get out, 18 to 24 months, that's the average it takes to get out, they never go back. They go, I touched the hot stove, done with that life. I got goals. I'm not trying to pay lenders for the rest of my life. I'm trying to leave a legacy. I want to have generational impact. And so those are the people that inspire me, are the ones that they start there, but it doesn't end there. And unfortunately, too many of us are willing to live in mediocrity for 30 years instead of sacrificing for 3 to have freedom for the next 27.
Yeah.
But it's a very different lifestyle. So it takes transformation. And you know how difficult that is. You talk about that a lot on this show.
Yeah, delayed gratification is one of those key things. A lot of people are willing to sacrifice 3 years of delayed gratification and not having all the extra things that their friends are doing, or not going out every weekend, or not going on that trip that they wanted to go on for 3 years.
You're not getting that house. You're not driving that car.
Yeah, man. But
that's hard.
If you can stay committed for a few years of sacrifice and find joy in the small and then big wins, and find joy in doing things for free, or just playing board games with friends, or being creative with your time, as opposed to feeling like you always need to spend to enjoy your time, I think you'll live a much better life.
That's the heart of all this. It's discontentment and FOMO, right? It's fear of missing out. What I talk about in the book is JOMO. It's the joy of missing out.
Yeah.
It's the joy of going like, dude, I don't care about all that. I'm running my own race. And the problem with running other people's race is that there is no finish line. Like when you're trying to keep up with someone else, well, they have a whole different life and they have different goals. And so why are you trying to keep up with these people that you don't really care about all that much? And so if you really have strong friends in your corner, they're going to be cheering you on and going like, dude, I totally get it. I'll come over tonight. I'll bring a pizza. We'll hang. We don't have to go out to the bar. You know what I mean? And so that takes a level of sacrifice, especially when you're young. Because when you're young, it's all about like, these are the best years of my life. I can't skip that vacation. But man, just 2 years out of the next 40, if you can sacrifice, it changes everything.
Yes.
It changes the trajectory of your life. And so that's what I hope people are willing to do at the end of this.
How does someone create that belief that they can have control over their money?
I think it starts with dealing with their past. I mean, our friend Dr. John Deloney has a book called Own Your Past, Change Your Future. And you have to own the shame and the guilt and the baggage and the mistakes and the hurt and the financial trauma, and your parents divorced and it was money stress and money fights and you took on all this debt. And so who are you to ever build wealth and become debt free? You have to grapple with that and go like, that's not who I am. Those are things that happened. And yes, they may have happened to me, but that's not going to control my destiny. And so it starts with that, realizing like, this is my past. That's fine. That's not where I'm headed. And so we always say the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason. So if you can start looking ahead going, regardless and in spite of all of that, I am going to change my family tree. That's what we call it. Build generational wealth. Break the cycles and chains that have come before me. Those people are the ones that inspire me every day when they call the show. And they didn't come from money. They didn't come from trust funds. They came from broken homes and little incomes, and they overcame. Those are the heroes.
Yeah, I think I saw someone earlier this week, a woman come on the show, say she got like $300,000 in debt in like 18 months or something.
Whoa.
On your show.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 300, maybe it was 170,000, I think it was, that she got out of debt in 18 months. And the amount of peace that she had in her facial expression and her body language around being debt free from these, I guess, bad debts, really looked empowering on what she was capable of doing now without that debt weighing her down. And I'm curious, before we get into the next, the fifth habit, how does someone develop that belief that they can pay down their debts if it seems so daunting and so overwhelming?
Realizing that you're not alone, I think, is a really important step. Too many people feel like, well, my situation's different and I'm unique and I'm special and they don't get it. But then I meet people every day and I get in a Financial Peace University class and there's all these other people who made money mistakes. And I go, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only idiot out there. I'm not the only average George out there. That to me is encouraging because it tells me that this path is something that other people have done before me, that will come after me, and that I can do this too. And so I think it's important to get other people around you. And that might mean cutting out some toxic friends who are not trying to be on that journey.
Sure.
Finding people who aren't trying to live on less than they make. That's an important piece. And the other piece is feeling progress. And that's why I think those baby steps are so important. When you start with just, hey, $1,000, can you get $1,000? Most of us would say, yeah, I can sell some stuff. I can get the second job. I can, not eat out this month. Now it's like, all right, let's attack that consumer debt. Debt snowball, smallest to largest. Let's just attack the small debt. Can we just do that? One thing at a time. We're not saving. We're not investing. We're just going to do one thing at a time. And that to me is what builds that hope and builds that progress and momentum and keeps you motivated on the journey. You have to have a little win early on or else you give up.
Yeah, that's good. And what about the fifth habit?
Ooh, the fifth habit is so boring and unsexy that it will upset you, but it is getting on the budget. It's making a plan. And what I found was that budgets are not for broke people. Budgets are not for wealthy people. Budgets are for intentional people. That was a game changer for me because I always thought like we have to be a super nerd and love Excel. Or you have to be like really broke because you think budget, you think this person's real frugal and stingy and cheap and they can't spend anything. You say, I'm on a budget. That means I can't go out with the friends. Right. But to me, it's just putting a plan on paper and looking at reality going, my income is $5,000. I need to spend, I'm going to make a plan for every single dollar because otherwise what happens? Dollars float away. You go, where? Oh my gosh, we spent $600 eating out this month and door dashing a burrito. All of that unintentional spending and impulse leads to you not hitting financial goals.
Yeah. So it's conscious spending habits. It's being aware of where you're spending your money. There was a quote in here, let me see this quote real quick. I saw this based on budgeting.
Yeah, I had a whole chapter on called "Budgeting is Freedom." That's
Yeah.
the first one in the Breaking Free section to help
Yeah.
people.
And the quote on that is from John Maxwell. Said a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And I think a lot of people aren't conscious about their spending habits, and they're not intentional about where they want their money to go. They buy things based on impulse and based on pleasure and based on desire. And then they realize like, oh, I don't have as much money as I thought I had because they're not intentional about it. How often should we be looking at all of our accounts? Should this be a daily thing? Should it be monthly? Is there too much to look at it where it's an obsession and you're over obsessing versus like a natural flow? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we tell people to make a budget every month. And so actually creating the budget on paper before the next month begins is key. So that will happen one time. And if you've got a spouse, you need to do that together with a quick budget meeting. This is not a 4-hour, Lord of the Rings saga here. This is going, hey, what's going on this month? Hey, we got that birthday party. We got to get that gift for this thing. Remember, we have that vacation coming up. Let's start saving. And so that's all it is. But as far as tracking your transactions, because that's a really important part of the budget, people forget to do. It looks great on paper, and then we just spend the rest of the month and hope. Fingers crossed we have money in the account at the end of the month and don't overdraft. That's most people. But tracking your transactions is a key, and you want to do that once every day or other day. And again, if you do it once or every other day, it's like cleaning your room. Mm-hmm. You don't ever have to clean your room if you just tidy up real quick. And so with Every Dollar, our budgeting app, this is as easy as just dragging the transaction. Like Amazon, drag it up to shopping. We're done. And so when you do that, you can actually see, do we have any money left for XYZ? Or, hey, we're over budget. We got to figure something out. We got to sacrifice. We got to cut this category here. What most people do is just overspend in 4 different categories. And they go, we're $1,000 over and we put it on the credit card. We'll figure it out next month. And that's why it's important to not only do a budget, but to use your own money. And I have one debit card and I use cash occasionally. That's it.
Wow.
My life is very simple in that way. And I have my Ramsey business debit card as well.
What do you say to people that say, well, I love having a credit card because it allows me to get points for flights or, whatever it might be, for other perks. And if I'm tracking it, just like I would a debit card, then I'm missing out on all these other perks.
Well, I found the people who actually could stand to benefit and actually have any meaningful rewards make enough money and spend enough that they don't need the rewards. So it's kind of hilarious at that point to be like, if you make $150,000, the $1,000 in rewards is not changing your life whatsoever. And the mental calories you're spending to play the game and maximize is not worth your time. And so I break down, in chapter 3 on credit cards, I break down 8 different character archetypes that I found with credit cards. And so there was the rewards redeemer. There's the world traveler. The person's like, I got to have my airline miles.
Right.
And I break down, you got to spend $50,000 in order to get your $250 flight. But you don't even know that because what do they give you? Points and miles. What is 100,000 miles? We don't know anymore. The credit card companies want to confuse us. And I found this out from an ex-Capital One employee. She told me verbatim that these credit card companies run 10,000 experiments a year on consumers and A/B test them to go, oh, if we switch it from cash back to points, it triggers something different in their brain. It's like Chuck E. Cheese.
Wow.
You're like, I don't know what 100,000 points is, but it feels like a lot. Let's sign up for the bonus.
That's like 2 candy bars. Yeah.
Exactly. So most people, they're stepping over $1 to hopefully pick up a quarter.
Wow.
And the average credit card interest rate now is 22% APR.
Wow.
But we're doing all this in hopes of getting 2% cash back. You're like, is it worth spending $100 to get $2? What they tell me is, well, I'm not spending any differently than if it was my own money. I'm like, you want to bet? Here's $1,000 cash of your own money. Go hand over $1,000 and see the emotional pain it causes. Right. And so adding friction back into our life will actually help us spend less. And that's what happens when you use cash especially, but even a debit card. Your brain knows.
This is coming right out of my account.
That's Lewis's money right now. And so in the book, the thesis of that chapter is when it hurts less, it costs more. When we remove the friction, you're going to spend more. And I quote MIT studies using fMRI technology on the brain, and they're seeing when people swipe that credit card, it releases the brakes on spending and hits the accelerator.
Really?
And so it's like both and. And every study shows you spend more when you swipe that card. And so I try to hit every single objection here because we've heard so much on the Ramsey Show. What if I paid the perfect spenders, the first one in there? I never pay a dime in interest. What's wrong with using my credit card? all of those excuses.
Pay it off every month, all the different things.
Yeah, but even then, think about it. You could have $0 in the bank at the end of that month. You're not building wealth just because you have a 0 credit card balance. I want people to build wealth.
Sure.
Not just play the game perfectly of Capital One.
Right. And if it's coming out of a debit card, you'd be much more conscious of like, do I really need this thing? Or is this, whatever I'm going to buy right now, is it really going to be the thing that I want right now and going to make me happy? Or is it just
it's all rotating cash back. So when you tell me I spend just like I would, and like, no, you're going out to eat because you get 5% this month on restaurants.
Right.
Like, they know what they're doing. It's always on travel and restaurants. It's never, hey, pay your utility bills and we'll give you 5% cash back.
Right.
It's never the boring stuff. It's the frivolous spending.
Sure.
So there's so much in there that was fascinating, especially the Fed Reserve study that shows that $15 billion moves from the poor, uneducated, to the wealthier, educated through credit card rewards.
Wow.
And so when people tell me, well, George, I'm not, like, who's benefiting from this? Like, I'm not hurting anyone by doing this. Like, technically, I'm not on a moral high horse, but the study shows that the poorest, most uneducated people is who's paying for your flight.
Wow.
Who's paying for your cash back. And to me, that's not a system I want to be a part of if I can opt out of it by using my own money.
What do you think is the number one thing about money that stresses them out the most? The idea of money. Is it the debt of money? Is it having lots of money? Is it relationships and money? Is it people's opinions about your money? What is the number one thing about money that stresses people out the most?
When it comes to stress, I think a lot of stress is based on fear of the unknown. And when you have headlines and economic uncertainty and what's the president going to do or not going to do, and are they going to forgive student loans? And I have so much peace when it comes to personal finances because I ignore all of the noise and I only focus on what I can control. When you start pointing fingers at, well, what are we going to do about inflation, the cost of eggs, and dude, Congress has got to get their act together, and the Fed, they keep messing with these interest rates, and the guy in the White House is to blame, and all of that is, we can always complain about that for a moment. But at the end of the day, we got bills to pay. We got goals to achieve. And so I go through all of those excuses in chapter 1 to tell people, like, hey, we can point fingers and enjoy it, and that's cathartic. But at the end of the day, what you can control is the guy in the mirror and how he spends his money and how she saves her money. And to me, that at first is kind of like, okay, I can control me, whoop, whoop. But it's so empowering when you realize, like, oh, if I'm the problem, I'm the solution. This is amazing. And so I think that stress comes from the fear of the unknown and what could happen and what if the stock market tanks. But when you have no debt, no lenders to pay, you have a fully funded emergency fund, and you've got wealth being built for the future, and you're thinking long-term, you're not worried about what happens.
Right, because you've got your plan and you're sticking to it.
Exactly. I'm so confident in my plan, and it's not because I'm some like multi-millionaire. It's because I'm content with where I'm at.
Right.
I don't need another $1 million tomorrow.